Hello, this is me, Ayman Yassin. I would like to welcome you to my first episode, which is directed to the IGCSE taker. In this episode, I'm going to explain this past paper, which is Chemistry Paper 2, Multiple Choice Extended, for February-March 2016. Here we have in this question number 1, 2 gas jars are set up as shown. Here we have in the jar number 1, 2 gases. The first one it's filled with air, and the second one it's filled with a brown gas, and between these jars there is a lid. And after that we have another jar, and both of these jars are connected to each other without this lid. So the question, the lid is removed and the gas jars are left to stand. After some time, the contents of both of jars are brown. Which process caused this to happen? It's clearly, here we have 2 gases, and these gases are mixed together. So that means these gases are moved from their original place, from their jars, which is caused by a process which is called diffusion, which is option B. Maybe you'll ask why it's not A or C or D. You know, the condensation, it's a process of converting the state of matter from gas to liquid. It's condensation. And C, it's evaporation from liquid to gas, and filtration, which is a process. Actually, it's not a process, it's a separation technique, which is used to separate something insoluble in the solvent. Question number 2. Which piece of apparatus is used to measure variable quantities of liquid in a titration? If it's A, which is conical flask, B, measuring cylinder, or biorate, or option D, which is pipette. Actually, we are use all of them in the titration, but the one which is used to measure variable quantities of liquid is C, which is biorate. B-U-R-E-T-T-E. Biorate. Okay, let's go to the question number 3. Here in this question, a sample of a green food coloring was separated into its component colors using paper chromatography. The result obtained are shown. What's the RF value of the blue spot? A 0.45, B 0.90, C 1.10, and D 2.20. Here in this question we have chromatography. Actually, chromatography, it's a separation technique which is used to separate the something which is dissolved in a solvent, and these things or these components, they have different solubility. In this case, you will use paper chromatography. And you can see here in the chromatography paper, we have 2 spots, the blue and yellow. And also in the chromatography, we have very important things, which is baseline and solvent front. Always the distance between them, it's 10 centimeter. And the blue spot and yellow spot has traveled from the baseline toward the solvent front. So always the RF value shouldn't be exceed more than 1. So it's clearly, that means both of the C and D, they are totally wrong. Why? Because the RF, how it's calculated? RF, it's calculated by dividing the distance which is traveled by the blue spot over the 10 centimeter. So it's clearly that the blue spot has traveled 4.5 centimeter over 10, and this one, it will give us 0.45. So the best answer is A. In the question number 4, in which row are the substances correct classified? In the first column we have element, the second one is compound, and the other it's mixture. Now element, only you can find them in the periodic table. Actually they are element, so you will not see there is a brass or water. So it's clearly, again, A is totally wrong and D is totally wrong. So maybe B or C. So in the first column both of them are correct, but in the second column, which is compound, you have water in the C option, and B, there is a brass. Actually a compound, it's water, not a brass, because brass, it's brass is alloy, which is a mixture, and water, it's a compound. So the best answer is C. Question number 5. Which molecule contains only single covalent bonds? The best answer is chlorine. Why? Because chlorine will be bonded with one single bond with another chlorine atom, because they have only single electron which is needed to make this outer level energy 8. Each chlorine atom needs only one electron to be shared. While carbon dioxide, carbon is bonded. In this case here, carbon group number 4, it needs 4 electrons to be shared, and oxygen group number 6, 2 electrons. So he's asking only single covalent bond. Nitrogen, it's a group number 5. They have 3 single electrons. They have actually 3 bonds, triple bond, and in the oxygen we have double bond. So the best answer is chlorine. In the question number 6, which structure represents the sodium chloride lattice? Here, sodium chloride, when you have a compound, it's ended with IDE, that means it's negative, and the other one, it's positive. That means sodium should be positive ion, and chloride, it's negative. So in this option A is totally wrong, because chloride here, it's a positive ion, and sodium, it's negative. So this one, it's wrong. In the option B, it's correct. as we have learned. And why it's not question C? Option C, because if you have a look to the periodic table, the size of the ions as you go from left to right, the size is getting bigger and bigger. So the sodium ion should be small ion, and the negative ion, which is gain the electrons, so should be the bigger ion. So this one totally wrong. And this structure, it's totally wrong because this one is representing the metallic bond when the positive ions are swimming in the cloud of electrons. So this one also wrong. In the question 7, X and Y are isotopes of the same element. Which statement is correct? Option A, X and Y have atoms with different number of electron shells. So this statement actually it's explaining different ions, or the neutral atom and its ion. It's not talking about or explaining the statement. So this one it's wrong. Statement B, X and Y have atoms with same nuclear number. If it's same nuclear number, that means you have one type of element, because the isotopes, they have different nuclear number. So this one is also wrong. X and Y have atoms with same number of outer shell electrons. This one is totally correct, because the isotopes, they have same number of protons, so in the same time they have same number of electrons. So this option is correct. X and Y have different chemical properties. This is totally wrong, because already they have the isotopes, they have same number of electrons, so that means they have same chemical properties. So the option D is wrong. Question 8. In the question 8, which quantities of chemicals will react exactly with no reactants left over? Here you have two reactions. The first reaction between carbon and oxygen to form carbon dioxide. Here you have 12 grams of carbon. So if you will divide 12 grams of carbon over its relative atomic mass, that means you have 1 mole. And if you will divide 12 grams of oxygen over 32, 12 over 32, you will have 0.3 mole. And if you will compare this ratio 1 to 1.3, which is totally wrong according to the balanced chemical equation, because in the balanced chemical equation you need to have 1 mole of carbon and 1 mole of oxygen to form 1 mole of carbon dioxide. So the option A, it's wrong. Again, option B, you have 1 mole of carbon because already we have divided, but if you have 84 grams of oxygen over 32, you will have 1.5 here. Instead of this one, you have 1.5. In this case also it's wrong, because 1 mole of carbon needs only 1 mole of oxygen, and the question exactly needs with no reactant reactants left over. So option B, again, it's wrong. In the option C, you have another chemical reaction. This reaction between magnesium plus oxygen to form magnesium oxide. From this equation, actually it's not balanced chemical equation, so we need half mole of oxygen. 1 mole of magnesium needs to be reacted with half mole to form 1 mole of magnesium oxide. So you have 12 grams of magnesium over its relative atomic mass, which is here 0.5, and 16 grams of oxygen over 32, which is also 0.5 gram. Sorry, 0.5 mole. So from the ratio 0.5 to 0.5, but from balanced chemical equation we need 1 to 0.5 mole. So this is also wrong option. The best answer actually 24 gram of magnesium and 16 gram of oxygen. If we are going to divide both of these mass over their relative atomic mass, we will have 1 mole of magnesium and 0.5 mole of oxygen, which is totally fits to the balanced chemical equation. So the best answer is D. In the question number 9, we have magnesium nitride. It's totally similar to the previous question. Nitride here, that means negative ion, and magnesium here, it's positive ion. Magnesium nitride is formed when magnesium bonds in air. Magnesium nitride is an ionic compound. What's the formula of magnesium nitride? Magnesium Mg plus 2, and nitride it's -3. So to balance this chemical formula, here we have to add 3 and here we have to add 2. So Mg3N2. So the best answer is Mg3N2, option D. Question 9, it's D. And the last question in this episode, which is question 10, the electrolysis of concentrated hydrochloric acid is shown. Here we have this diagram of the electrolysis, which statement describes what happens to the electrons during the electrolysis. They are added to chloride ions. That means you have a chloride ion and electrons. Electrons is added to the chloride ion. Already it's negative, so we don't need to add electrons. So this option is wrong. Option B, they are added to the hydrogen ion. Hydrogen ion, it's positive. So here we have electron. So this option is totally correct because hydrogen ion needs electron to form at the end hydrogen gas, which is a molecule. So the best answer is option B. So this is the end of this episode. And this episode we have solved only 10 different